This KFAN podcast is sponsored by Builders and Remodelers, exclusive Twin Cities provider of Elements Windows. Get the highest quality windows at unmatchable value. Visit buildersandremodelers.com for more details. And
Level 13-14 past Common Man Program. I might need you during the next break to re-rack the Kwesi and the first answer to the Rodgers question. And then the second answer, too. Does it sound like the door's still open for A-Rodge to come here to Minnesota, or did I hear that wrong? Because I think even one of the media people, whoever followed up, said, well, wait a minute, what are you saying? Do you think A-Rodge could still be in a Vikings uniform?
Well, I was about to ask you that same thing.
Oh. Well, why don't you go ahead and...
Time now for 5 questions. Well, actually 3, but 5 sounds like more than 4. Question number 1.
All Vikings, let's win this game. You'll hear us yell for more.
It's now time to take an in-depth look at the state of the skull.
I mean, you heard it from the horse's mouth right there. Kwesi Dofamensa had a presser, and it was point blank asked, is the door closed on Aaron Rodgers? And he avoided that thing like a boxer avoiding a right hook. Did not commit to it at all.
It's actually a right cross and a left hook.
Excuse me.
That's okay.
That's why you'll do the boxing.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to... Okay, go ahead.
To me, that is a huge story because it seemed like he said everything but the door is closed. He didn't want to say that. He said no one declares their QB1 at this point in time, which I thought was interesting. So he's leaving that open. It might not be JJ. He hasn't committed to him, and then he wouldn't say if the door is the door closed, in your opinion, based off what you just heard. And I can re-rack it later.
I want you to re-rack it for sure to make sure I heard what I heard. It raises some interesting issues, as we like to say.
Yeah.
What I don't know is then, I think everybody believes, because it's never been denied as far as I know, that there was conversations in that room. I think it was first reported by, might have been Seifert, and then it was followed up by several other people, including guys with The Athletic and the Fish Wrap Factory West Side, et cetera. That, the Diana Rossini character and others, that there were conversations inside the walls of the new Winter Park TCO Performance Center about bringing Aaron Rodgers into the club. If that is indeed true, then that's not to say the Vikings don't believe in J.J. McCarthy, that they do think he can be a franchise quarterback. But as I had said all along when they talked about Rodgers, I think he's, was it called a megalio? He's really into himself, right? And that's okay. The guy's more interesting because he's got an ego, right? But there are people that think he's a cancer in the locker room. And I tend to agree with some of that. I brought up the examples before. And look, postseason play, when it comes to NFC championship games, he hasn't performed very well as of late, the times he has been in or just in the playoffs. But if you got a team that's all put together and looks like with the additions they made in the offensive line and the defensive line and the secondary and another running back to help out, you look at it and say, well, this team's pretty good. They were 14-3 last year, and now you've addressed positions that you acknowledged were a weakness to the club. And on paper, you've improved those. So you would think teams should be ready to be in the mix here. It's, one of the potential teams. We talked about it yesterday. There was a CBSSports.com story that said, if anybody can off the Eagles, who would it be? And then they had 5 teams, and they listed Washington as the team they thought had the best chance, and they listed others, Buffalo, then they had honorable mentions, and the Vikings were one of those clubs, and so were the Packers. These are teams that have, Detroit was listed in that top 5, and then Green Bay, Minnesota were in that honorable mention character. And if you can bring a guy like that, that's why I said all along, people were, and I think mostly it's the Rodgers hatred that Viking fans have. Because it was like, it's time to turn it over to JJ. Somebody even texted me and said, like, well, JJ's not going to like that. Well, guess what? We don't care what JJ thinks. JJ doesn't run the club. He's not the owner. He's not the general manager. He's not the coach. Kid, you're in the National Football League. There's plenty of time. We've seen a lot of quarterbacks sit on the bench after being drafted for a couple, 3 years before they get. And if you think, wow, we're real close, and Rodgers, if you still think he has what it takes to perform at a high level, I think you're doing yourself a disservice to not at least consider it. So it sounds to me like the door still might be open.
Question number 2.
Time now for an in-depth look at the state of hockey.
Yeah, the Wild took more than their fair share of knocks in the penalty box last night, losing 5-1 on home ice. Jack Eichel scores a hat trick. I believe at one point, about halfway through the game, with like 10 minutes left in the second period, I think the Wild had something like 9 or 10 shots, which is not good. The fan has learned. Pretty pedestrian effort from your club. So I ask you one simple question when it comes to the Minnesota Wild.
It's time now for the Where on the Bandwagon is Coming update.
I've never been in the driver's seat, nor have I been riding shotgun. I don't even know if I was actually seated at any time. I think, on the subways and buses, those straps, if you're standing, you can hang on to. I was hanging onto a strap near a door.
Okay.
In case you got to exit, because when that bandwagon really picks up speed and then it hits that corner on the edge of the mountain and it's careening out of control and it gets up on 2 wheels, right, and it's about to tip, you have to be able to exit and tuck and roll. Now you're going to get banged up a little bit. Is this a fake laugh, or do you really think this is funny?
I'd love this bit. That's why I do it every time. Yeah.
Oh, you've heard this bit.
Well, I've done this bandwagon bit.
Have I done this before?
No, this is fresh.
I didn't realize I did the bandwagon
new.
bit before. Yeah, so I'm standing, but I got my hand on the strap, but it's getting a little bit tougher.
You're ready to dive.
Well, St. Louis just won their something like 7th in a row.
Something like that.
And St. Louis now is only, count them, 2 points behind the Wild for, is it that second play? I still don't understand how they do their playoff stuff. You got a first and a fifth, and then there's a second and a third, and they play the eighth, and it's all
stupid.
It's just I don't understand it. I don't want to understand it. I think it's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard of. But as of a couple of weeks ago, it looked like we were in a pretty comfortable position, and now it's looking like it's a bit, what should we say, tenuous.
And that's it for today's edition of 5 Questions. Well, actually 3 questions, but 5 sounds like more than 4.
My wife made a taco pie, so it's a pie plate, and it's got a crust on it. And it's got taco meat and cheese and onion and all. Oh, it's so good. I'm going to polish that off. We'll take a break. We'll come back. Do you think you can re-rack that Kwesi stuff fairly quick? I mean, let's see if you can do the things you need to do that'll make you really good. Let's do that. And then we got others. I still want to get back to the Patino thinking about college basketball. But I think Richard raises some interesting issues in some of his comments from his news conference after accepting the job at Xavier. We'll break. We'll come back with more after this here on The Fan.
Now.
Start the baseball season with our Major League season opening watch party at Treasure Island tomorrow. Slide in a parlay at 2:30 to catch all the action on the big screens as Minnesota takes on St. Louis. Cheer on the team with Marnie Gellner and Twins legend Tim Laudner. Enjoy drink specials and free food and prize giveaways. Get full details now, KFAN.com. Keep your calendar.
Front page news, and you heard it on The Fan. Let's go back. This is Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah. Still, the general manager of the or president of football operations, whatever that title is, for the soon-to-be big game world champion Minnesota Vikings. He's on the last year of his contract. He said early on when he was asked about it, any progress on that? And he said, well, it's probably my fault. And he said it's like building a house, and then he went into building blocks and the whole thing like that. But the conversation, he was queried by the assembled media regarding Aaron Rodgers. Remember, there was this, there were stories floating about last week, or maybe a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, last couple of weeks, about the Vikings being interested in signing Aaron Rodgers. He was asked about it. We'll run this. This runs about 3 or 4 minutes, I think. But here's Kwesi with the media talking about Aaron Rodgers.
There's also been a lot of talk about Aaron Rodgers. Can you clarify what your level of interest, if any, there is in him?
Yeah, and I understand that. Aaron Rodgers, this organization is known for a long time on the opposing sideline, talking about a great player, a Hall of Famer. So I understand that. I'll always say it's our job as a personnel group to make sure we're aware of every potential option. And again, we're trying to make sure we solve for scenarios that we don't know could possibly happen. We want to make sure that there's competition in the room to make sure that, if you remember last offseason when JJ and Sam were really competing, that brought the best out of both of them. And so you want an environment that's like that, a supportive environment to also just challenge each other but grow and learn and all those different things. And so we're trying to solve for a lot of different things at once. And, from all those conversations comes a list of names and maybe an order and an intentional plan on how to best solve for those things. So, a player like him, he's always going to be in those conversations. But from our delineations at that time, we're happy with where we are going forward. But obviously the caliber of player and just all our situations, we had to make our considerations.
To say that he's not an option for this organization?
Right now, given all our scenario planning, we're happy with our room, and obviously we're going to talk a lot about JJ McCarthy, but Brett Rippon, who somebody we brought in last offseason, we thought made a lot of great decisions, quick decision making, processing, and a better athlete than people give him credit for, accurate passer. So we're excited about him, and we're always going to keep looking to see if we can upgrade that position, just like every other position. But right now,
I'm sorry. You wouldn't consider Aaron Rodgers competition for JJ if you were to bring him in. Are you saying that would be the classification for a quarterback that you brought in, that it would be competition and not a person who?
You want to solve for a lot of different things. You want competition. You want ability to play if they're not the starter. All those different things. You're just trying to solve for a lot of different dynamics. I'm not going to say that's specific to Aaron, but just generally what you're trying to accomplish in the decision.
Did you or Kevin speak with Aaron directly?
Yeah. So you're talking about a player that Kevin's known for a long time. And so when you have a relationship like that, I'm typically the type that's like, hey, whoever's got the best relationship, talk to him. And so Kev, he's a bit of a, if I'm like maybe like the dork Elvis, maybe Kev's like the QB Elvis type of guy. He's got a lot of respect in that community and he deserves it for a lot of great reasons, not just for the what he brings from a schematic standpoint, but just how he cares about players, how he cares about people. He cares about, a lot of times the environments around quarterbacks aren't really supportive to quarterbacks. And so for that reason, he's got a great relationship with a lot of these guys, and he's got a great relationship with Aaron. They've had a lot of conversations. Obviously, he looped us in and we kind of met and go from there. It's a unique thing to talk about a player of that caliber, and I'm always somebody who wants to learn and grow myself. And so, just being involved in those dialogue was really special.
Were you expecting as the offseason began that he would be somebody you guys would reach out or speak with?
So, obviously we had we start the offseason. Obviously Sam was still, a potential option. And then, Daniel was somebody that we brought in with potential. So he was in our conversations, but you're always trying to plan for a lot of different things. Again, I've named 3 players, but there's other players that are also in consideration, and you put all your options on the table and you see what fits best for your scenarios, and you kind of go from there.
Kwesi, when you're having conversations with a player of his caliber, how do you set the parameters of that in terms of whether he wants to be assured of certain things of where he's going to be in the second order? I mean, how much of those conversations did you have with them in terms of what it would look like if he came in?
Yeah, our belief here is full transparency, both sides. I don't think it's wise from either party to show up here and have surprises. I think the players, we always encourage our players, agents to tell us exactly what you expect from this opportunity, and we do not lie. We tell them, hey, we might do this, but we also might do this in the future, and just make sure you make that decision full knowledge based. So transparency is just the key to how we have those conversations always.
Here's you can use this anytime you want.
Okay.
The plot thickens.
Oh.
So there was follow-ups again, right?
Mm-hmm.
I thought the follow-ups were just as interesting, about is the door closed on Rodgers? You have those sound bites?
I do. You're
the best.
Here's one.
How did it end with Rodgers? Was it his choice, your choice, that it wasn't going to fit?
I think we got to a place where we just said everybody was transparent, but right now we feel good about where we're going, and that's really how it ended. It's ultimately up to him. It's hard to talk about a player who's not under contract for our team and who plays for obviously isn't a member of this team. It's ultimately up to him what he decides to do with his future. But that's kind of where we left it. I know Kevin and him have a great relationship still. They'll still have a relationship. They'll keep talking. But right now, I'm focused on the two players that are in our room right now and my personnel process for going forward.
So he says, well, it's up to him. It's up to Aaron Rodgers. Didn't say it's up to us. It's the decision we both need to make together. And then was there another follow-up, right?
There was another follow-up.
Yeah, here's the next follow-up.
Learning the information we get as it comes, and we'll make the decision we can at the time.
Kwesi, can you say definitively then the door is closed with Rodgers? It kind of sounds like ultimately it was his decision and we're still looking for a veteran quarterback. Can you say that door is...
I don't know that it was ultimately, I don't know that I said it was ultimately his decision. I don't want to make sure that. I think that I said that given where we are scenario-wise, we didn't think it was the right move at this time. It is also his decision to whether he signs with another team, not. That's ultimately up to another player. For me to sit here and say that, anything's 100% forever, that's just not the job, right? We're responding to scenarios and different information as it comes. So, obviously things can change, but right now we're really happy with our room and we're going to look to upgrade it in different ways. But for now, we're really excited.
Huh. So now maybe somebody that has, and there's a lot of people out there that do have a greater knowledge of how this stuff works, but May 1st would sort of be the date to keep an eye on, right? Because I'm told the date the comp pick formula locks in for 2026 picks, which the Vikings have positioned themselves to receive compensation. If he doesn't sign anywhere between now and May 11, I'm under the impression that the door swings wide open to get him because you would not lose those compensatory picks. It would move the compensatory formula toward 2027 if you decide to pay him a lot. I think they want Aaron Rodgers. Absolutely, indeed, they want him. And I think the conversations with Aaron were, let's just wait. May 1st. He hasn't signed anywhere yet. Now, that could be just because he's in a darkness retreat and he can't find his phone, right? I mean, it's like if you're in a darkness retreat, of course, when your phone rings, usually the light blinks on, but I don't know, I'm getting the feeling that if he's not signed by May 1, and I don't think he's going to be, I think the Vikings are going to swoop in, and it's going to be just like Brett Favre. How much fun will this be? What number would he wear?
Think about it.
Did Kirk wear 8 when he was here?
He did.
Well, he couldn't wear 8, just like he didn't wear 12 in New York because that was Joe Namath. Cousins, I think, has that same type of stature with the Vikings that Namath did with I can't even say it with a straight face. I think A-Rod is coming. I don't think there's any way to I don't think there's any other way to see it, but maybe some other people will. We'll take a look at some text messages, courtesy of the Brad John Barn KFAN text line at 64686. We'll see what the legendary Mark Rosen has to say about it. He'll join us in about 20 minutes or so right here on The Fan.
The Twin Cities Auto Show presented by Quick Trip will roll into the Minneapolis Convention Center April 11th through the 13th and again April 16th through the 19th. Twin Cities Auto Show is the place to compare hundreds of new vehicles in every category.
Hundreds?
Hundreds. Sedans, compacts, SUVs, trucks, EVs, luxury cars. Find all the details, TwinCitiesAutoShow.com.
So, like I said, because I really don't understand all of it, I'm being told by a number of people there really is no the compensation pick formula doesn't have any effect because he was actually released. Right? Rodgers was released, right? Is that correct?
I think so.
He was released by the New York Football Jets. So, could it be the you might have to compete for the quarterback? Do you think they would say that to Rodgers? That KOC would meet with him and say, "Hey, Aaron, how you been? So any interest in playing here? Yeah, I bet we've heard. It's no secret. You want to play for a team that looks like they're ready made to get to a big game, and that's us. So love to have you, but you're going to have to compete with JJ for the job." And he just goes, the ego of Rodgers goes,
not going to work.
Compete with a rookie who hasn't taken a snap in a regular season game? Really? That's what you think of me? Get back to me when you change your mind on that, right? So now it's like a game of, I don't know, chicken's the right word, but it's like calling bluffs, right? Where the Vikings, look, I think most of the fans, though, I will say this, and maybe people were just playing to me because when it was first announced that there was interest in Rodgers, I think I've made no bones about it. I'm not a big Rodgers guy. I think his attitude, the way he treats teammates, his whole approach to things isn't always the best. But he's got a lot of talent, right? And then from the, and again, part of it's selfish because from a sports radio talk show host perspective, I mean, Aaron comes here, making one last run at trying to get to a big game. It's with the local team. It's like the Favre thing all over again, just with a different personality. And we'd become you saw how much press and how much coverage of Rodgers was with New York. It would be even though that was a bigger city, I think it would be more here because of the Green Bay tie in Minnesota, the arch rival. He wants to stick it to the Packers, sort of like Favre did. It's following in the footsteps of Favre. Favre went to the Jets, and then he came to the Vikings. Rodgers goes to the Jets. He comes to the Vikings. He makes for good press, right? When you're writing about Aaron Rodgers, you buy your ink in 50-gallon barrels, right? Because there's plenty to talk about. And that's I know there are Viking fans out there that they would they might even be to the where they would disown the Vikings. They wouldn't root for them anymore. They have such they despise Rodgers so much. At least that's a lot of the reaction I get at the Bradshaw and Bryant KFAN text line. You see it on the message boards and the various sports websites, including Fish Rat Factory, East, West, Athletic, etc. You get etc. I think is how you say that. But the organization, from the top on down, particularly with the ownership group, with the brothers Wilf, with KOC. Here was something else that was really interesting, too. Did you hear where Kwesi went with the old, well, I'm the kind of guy that if one guy knows a guy better, then I let that guy go ahead and do the conversation. Because there is a link there between Rodgers and KOC. I think part of that is to see, I don't know if that's really, I'm trying to read between the lines here. Because my sources tell me that along with that extension that KOC got also came a little bit more power. In other words, he's got a seat at the table when it comes to decision making, maybe even more so than he did before. So my guess is, and this is just a guess, I could be wrong, but this is what I think it was like, Cam, I got this. That's KOC. I got this. I'll talk to Aaron because we're tight. We're like this. And Kwesi said, well, he goes, I asked KOC, and he goes, is anybody ever a number one? Is anybody ever told they're the number one quarterback, that they're it? Well, yeah. Well, maybe not, because you don't have to tell Tom Brady he's number one. You don't have to tell Lamar Jackson he's one, Pat Mahomes, Joe Burrow, etc. All that, the starting quarterback, the kid for the Eagles,
Hurts.
You don't tell those guys, when you come to camp this year, you're fighting for the number one job, right? And with an ego that Aaron's got, I would understand if they really said to him, we'd love to have you, but the job's not yours. And I could see where Aaron could say, you're kidding, right? If I sign here, I'm going to have to compete against a kid who just started shaving about 3 months ago. Not going to work for me. If you're confident in your abilities, then you say, sure. If you want to go through some kind of a charade and you don't think I'm better than him, I'll show you that. Is it Minnesota also protecting themselves? Because let's face it, Rodgers wasn't brilliant last year. I think the Jets won 5 games, and I think did he start all or most of them? I think he was out for a little while with an injury, wasn't he? Didn't he miss a few games last year, mid to late in the season, and then came back? That's what I thought. I remember. I have to admit, I'm not paying as close attention to Aaron Rodgers' playing time with the Jets as I once did. And then he missed the entire year before that. So if you're the Vikings, and I guess, because I don't think you'd want to, because you could do the old, oh yeah, you're the guy for sure. And then when you get to camp, go, by the way, it's open competition. Well, you don't want to do that to a guy either. Especially a guy that's, again, whether you like Rodgers or not, he's got a resume. He's got some grid cred, right? Gridiron cred. I don't think there's any question about that. But the Vikings, you want to kind of protect themselves, because what if Rodgers does come and he doesn't have much left? That what happened with the Jets last year wasn't just because of the first head coach, the second head coach, because remember Robert Saleh, is it Saleh? I think that's how you say it. He got fired. I don't know if the Jets were injured. I just stopped paying attention to the Jets, but it just did not go right for Rodgers and the Jets. And if the Vikings have to, if you're the Vikings, you have to keep that in the back of your mind too, right? It's like, well, I don't know if I want to give it to him. So, and then Rodgers doesn't mind milking it either, right? Could it be this? A lot of these guys don't want to, I don't want to go to training camp. Even didn't Rodgers do that last year? Didn't he skip Otis in mini camps in New York? I thought he did. Mm-hmm. Maybe he did.
It was in Egypt.
Yeah. So, looking at the pyramids, which were built in the 1800s, as you know. I know people, I telegraphed that they were waiting for the PA cheap shot. Sorry, I have to do it. So, and see, I don't dismiss anything in the world of sports, in the world in general, but specifically in sports, where it isn't that kind of thing where KOC says, job's yours. I don't want to come. I'm not going to mini camps in Otis. Well, that would look bad. That'll look like you're controlling the club. How about this? You sit tight. Once we get past Otis and mini camps, we'll sign you. I don't know. Is that crazy talk? I suppose it is, because I'm nuts. But I don't put anything past any of these people. I mean, guys' careers, legacies, contracts, everything is all tied to this stuff. You're coach of the year. You want to make sure you're keeping this thing moving forward. I do think this, and this is based on just a hunch, a gut feeling. I mean, part of it's because I've watched Rodgers play and know how good he has been. I've not seen enough of. Well, I haven't seen anything of Jage as a pro. I don't remember what I was doing, but I was out of pocket. I think I was golfing on that preseason game that he played and got hurt. I didn't see it, but I heard he was really good. But that's all we got to go on the pro level. He's a pretty good collegiate quarterback, but if you remember, Michigan ran the ball a lot. he wasn't asked to throw that often. So oftentimes when he did throw, it kind of came as a surprise to the other team. That's not to try to, I'm not trying to take anything away from McCarthy, but there was still so much unknown about him that I just believe, even with Rodgers' performance last year and being out the year before, and I think his inadequate postseason play the last 4, 5, 6 times in the postseason, I still think if you ask me right now, who gives the Vikings a better chance to win games, win the division, grab a wild card spot, and make a run through the playoffs, I would say it's Aaron Rodgers. Would you agree with that, Brett Blakeman? Again, you're a Packer fan, so you're a former. I'm sure you loved Rodgers forever.
Of course.
Probably still have do you still have a soft spot in your heart for him?
The guy's made so many memories for me as a kid. It's hard not to. Oh, yeah. I mean, despite, everything else that's happened.
Yeah.
But still, that same thing happened with Favre where he had some questionable things happen. But no, I've been watching him since I was 12. Think about how many amazing games he had for my club. So, yeah, I've got a soft spot for him. I think, I can't believe that they didn't just shut it down because Kwesi had every opportunity to go, JJ's our guy, and we're not entertaining this anymore. We thought about it. We did our due diligence, but it's over. No, left it completely open. I'm stunned by that. I think, to answer your question, I think the best chance to win a Super Bowl this season is with Rodgers, without a doubt. What is the best chance to build a franchise that could win big games for the next, or have swings at big games for the next 10 years? It's probably getting JJ some experience this year and moving forward with him.
But for me, those windows aren't always open forever. And
it's true.
I don't even know if the average fan considers the window open right now, meaning a window to get to a big game. But if you saw a team go 14-3 last year. Now, Darnold was awful against Detroit. I don't think he got a lot of help against the Rams. I put that more on. I know we love the coach of the year and the quarterback whisperer, but I think you got to do something to provide him with some protection there. You just let the Rams rush over and over and over again. Don't you have a trick or two up your sleeve to buy him some more time? He's got to take part of the responsibility. I played the game both sides of the ball, trust me. But if you believe that adding to the offensive line and the defensive line, and they did with players that are proven. Now, 3 of the 4 were injury-riddled last year, right? So you don't know if, do they bounce right back? Are they getting a little long in the tooth because they're all veterans? Kwesi was asked about that. You didn't go with really young guys. You went with older guys. He didn't really make a straightforward answer there. He did his Kwesi talk again. Not crazy, but Kwesi talk. Someone confused the two. But would you be wasting a year if you go with McCarthy and he's not Jaden Daniels? He's more like who was the guy that the Patriots drafted with the 15th pick before?
Drake May.
No, the 15th pick a few years ago.
The Patriots?
Yeah, the Patriots. Mac Jones, I think.
Mac Jones. Yeah.
What if he's more Mac Jones like in his first year, and then you go, whoa. Boy, I wonder what we would have done with Rodgers. Boy, JJ struggled, and again, it's every year. They all say nothing's promised the next season. So if you feel like, here's the way I look. I think the Vikings are poised to be a really good team last year. I alert the media. 14-3, signed a number of their free agents. I don't think they lost anybody really critical. And they added 4 really good players and others as well, but 2. Well, actually 5, because I do think that running back they got from San Francisco is a nice addition to the team. You got the running back, then you got the 2 defensive linemen in the interior and the 2 offensive linemen in the interior. I think the team looks better on paper. And then you want to turn it over to a rookie? You can, and he might be he could be Jaden Daniels. But it doesn't matter what you think or I think or the fans think. It's what they think at Winter Park. That includes the Wilfs. I read a lot and hear a lot about the Wilfs are really hands-off and leave all the football decisions up to the guys in charge, Spielman and Zimmer, and now Kwesi and KFC. And that might be true, but I don't know that. I'm not in those meeting rooms. I didn't know Ziggy goes, storied franchise, National Football League. We've only been, we've not been to a big game since I've been here. I won a championship. Why wouldn't we want Aaron Rodgers? Tell me why. He could have something to say about this. And he does literally have the final say. He signs the paychecks. It's his club. Now, that doesn't mean he could have a complete hands-off approach, and maybe he does. I don't know. If I was owner, I'd meddle a little bit. I don't think I would go as far as Jerry Jones does. But I'd want something to say about what like if I'm the owner of the Vikings, and I'm sure most listeners are delighted that I'm not, I'd have Derrick Henry and Saquon Barkley on this club right now. And I'd be signing Aaron Rodgers, too.
Well, me and Sinekin have plenty of say of what's going on over in Green Bay.
Well, you do, because you're owners of that club. You got that little certificate.
That's right.
Do you have yours framed?
I do. It's in my bedroom.
Your bedroom,
that's a fact.
Too, yeah. In your bedroom.
Uh-huh.
With your little replica of the Guy Lombardo trophy. And do you have
four of them.
And you have a Brett Favre jersey autographed up on your wall in a frame, too?
Perhaps.
For the listeners that don't know it, your parents named you after Brett Favre.
That's actually a true story, which is crazy. Yeah.
My parents named me after a book in the Bible, a character in the Bible, Daniel in the Lion's Den. That's why I feel like the roar has been restored. Standing by a purpose firm, heeding God's command, honor them the faithful few, all hail to Daniel's band. Dare to be a Daniel, dare to stand alone, dare to have a purpose firm, and dare to make it known.
What do you think of the Lions now?
What do you think of the Lions now? So, here's what I think, though. If Rodgers comes, you know what he does? Because he's got a flair for the dramatic. He wears number 4. What do you think? Number 4 for a jersey.
Oh my gosh. Above average at that.
I think his ego's too big to wear 4.
Yeah,
don't you think?
I think you're probably right.
Probably have to have 12.
Yeah.
Nick Mullins got rid of it. It's available.
12, of course, was right. Who was the which Viking player was that wore 12 was probably the most successful? Who's the guy that slammed his head into the into the wall at one time? Quarterback Gus Frerotte, wasn't he number 12?
Was he?
I think Gus Frerotte was number 12.
Rosie says he thinks so.
I think Gus Frerotte was number 12. He's the most successful and famous Viking to wear number 12 until sometime right after they break camp or mini camp. That's when Aaron Rodgers will sign. This is all because he doesn't want to go to mini camp. He doesn't want to go to Oda's. He doesn't want to go to mini camp. And what he wants to do, but it will look too much as though he's running the team by looking at the coach and saying, yeah, I'll sign, but I got to be the starter and I ain't going to training camp or Oda's. I don't have any time for that. Then if they acquiesce to that, then that makes it look like the public would look at KOC as he's toothless, right? Well, he's not running the show there. He's a puppet to Rodgers. Whatever Rodgers says, go. KOC, have you any wool? Yes, sir, 3 bags full, right? But if this way, it's like, hey, we just couldn't come to an agreement. That's the way it goes. And all of a sudden, Otis. That's, by the way, in case you don't know.
What's that?
Other training activities? No. What does Otis stand for? Do you even know? I don't even remember anymore.
Is it optional?
Optional training, whatever it is.
Yeah, whatever.
Otis, let's just go with Otis. Sounds like you know what you're talking about. Sounds more footballish. Otis in mini camp. Then he signs when training camp starts, right? Finally was able to hammer out an agreement. Right?
Just got back from Turkey. And here he is.
Here he is, ready to play.
By the way, the history of number 12 for your Vikings, it's not a bad little club.
Oh, wait, hold on. The guy that got migraine headaches all the time. Percy Harvin was number 12.
He was. Yes, Percy Harvin. How about Dante?
Was he 12? I didn't remember that.
Apparently, according to this, what I'm reading.
I don't think he was number 12. There was no
then this article
he was
got
number
it wrong.
8. 11. He was number 11.
I'm going off of this article, so
this article
that's
is wrong.
Then. So then Sean Salisbury probably wasn't 12 either. Then.
I think Salsy was 12.
He was 12.
I think he was. Yeah.
Huh. All right. Well, goes to show you don't trust
Percy
everything
Harvin,
you read online.
the migraine guy. So there you go. Mark Rosen is waiting in the wings. You may have heard him in the background there. He's right now in Master Control Studio. I'm in Studio A, soon to be joined by Mark Rosen. Talk a little Vikings football and several other topics as the afternoon wears on here on the Common Man program on the Fan.